Hi, I'm Dave Vickers and welcome to the Photo Show. We're going to do a Photoshop tutorial today, but it's going to be slightly different because normally I do these, I use my own images. But recently, Jared Polin on Fro Knows Photo did an episode where they were trying to replicate an Apple iWatch advert by photographing the watch to get it as close to the look of the image in the advert as possible. In doing that, what he also did is he uploaded the RAW file to his website and allowed you to download it and have a go at editing it yourself. Now, I'm going to put the link in the description below if you want to download the image yourself and have a go. But basically what I thought I'd do is I've downloaded the image and I'll go through what I would do within Camera Raw to adjust the image. I'm not going to do any of the compositing of the highlights and the shadow on the watch, but I'll get it to a point where it makes it look, you can then go to that stage. So basically I'll just take you through the process of what I would do with this image. So first off, let's open up the image. So File, Open. We've got it here, Apple Watch Retouch. It's a DNG file, which is a digital negative file. So we're going to open that up. And that's going to open itself up into Adobe Camera Raw. Now I've been playing with this, so I'm going to reset this back to all of the presets, so it's back to the way that the image comes when it's downloaded. Okay, so that's how the image opens up when you've downloaded it. You can see at the bottom here it's shot on a Nikon D810. It's a full size 36.2 megapixels. Up here we've got some information on how it was shot. It was shot at f/18 100th of a second, ISO 100 on a 105mm lens. So there's the image. When they shot it, they actually suspended it by fishing wire. So we've got some fishing wire holding the watch above the white background here. There's a couple of other bits as well, but we'll fix those bits in Photoshop. What I want to do first off is just look at what we can do with this image to get it to a stage before we bring it into Photoshop. Now, immediately looking at it, it looks quite blue. It looks the color temperature on the image looks quite blue. If you look at the temperature slider here, it's more within the blue scale than the warmer yellows. It's a 5750, which is a reasonably cool color temperature. Now, I could adjust the color temperature manually, just using the slider here. But what I'm going to do is use the white balance tool to pick a neutral grey area. So if we come up to the top here, the first eyedropper here, if you hover over it, you can see is the white balance tool. So let's bring that in. Now if we hover this over areas of the image, if you look here below the histogram, we have an area that says RGB. And this is going to give us the relative values. Wherever we hover our eyedropper, it's going to give us the relative values in that area. You can see there, if I hover it over the black part of the dial, it's giving the red as 73, the green as 77, and the blue as 85. Now, to find a neutral grey or a neutral balanced area, what we're looking for is those three figures to be close together as possible. So if we move this around different areas of the watch, you can see that those values change. So we're looking for an area which is kind of a neutral grey and neutral area where those three figures are similar. We're getting closer there. Let's try over this side. And yeah, around here you can see that the difference between, there's slightly more in the blue, which we've already discovered because the temperature is more blue. Let's pick something where the color temperature is fairly similar. Okay, so about there on the watch, we're getting red at 227, green at 227, and blue at 234. So if I click there, and you can see straight away that it's taken a lot of the blue cast out of the image. You can see that the color temperature has moved up to 6500 there, going slightly more towards the warmer end. And if we hold the eyedropper around, we've got a lot more areas that are balanced and neutral, white balance within them. Okay, so that's the white balance taken care of. We've taken the blue hue out of it that was caused by the color temperature. Next thing I want to look at is below the watch here. You can see we've got some areas that are losing detail. The lighting has blown them out, and we're losing detail within this part of the image. So if we come across to the highlight slider and start to bring that back down, you can see that we're starting to get some detail back into those areas. Let's bring it down. Now I've brought it down to 90 there. Let's bring the exposure down ever so slightly on the watch as well. Let's bring it down to 0.15, and then bring the highlights all the way down to 100%. And you can see now we've got a fair amount of the detail back in. Let's put that back to where it was originally. You can see it's lost a lot of detail there. Bring it down there, we're getting a lot more detail back in that part of the watch. We can also adjust the shadows slider here and see if that brings it down. If we bring it all the way down, that's getting too much. Okay, I'm going to leave that around there for that. Clarity and vibrance, I'm going to leave those alone as it is for the time being, and leave the contrast as well. That's something sort of, if you were doing the highlights and shadows composite over the top of this to make it look more like the advert, you're probably going to want this to be more neutral than it is. Next thing I want to do is look at color noise and things like that. So let's zoom in on the image. We can bring this into 100%, and we're now at a view of 100% on the watch. Straight off, one of the things I'm noticing here is that the point of focus isn't really where I'd want it to be. I'd have liked the point of focus to have been on this main body of the watch, but it seems to be slightly underneath here. The writing across the bottom of the watch is a lot sharper than the dial here. So let's go to our sharpening area here, and we can bring the sharpening up to try and give a little bit more. Let's bring it up to around 100%. Okay. Let's default that again. So there, let's bring it up to about 99. So there's before we applied the sharpening, there's after, and we're getting it a little bit sharper in there as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the masking here to just sharpen the areas that we actually want. I don't want to over sharpen bits that are already really good. So if you hold down your Alt key and click on the little thing there, the entire screen will go white, and as you start to slide this up, anything that's in black now will be receiving the sharpening. Anything that's in white will be masked out. So if we go like that, that's really just sort of giving us the edge sharpening now. So if we take the preview on and off, there, we've cleaned up the sharpening quite a bit. There's a little bit of colour reflection in the top. I'm taking it's the reflection from the watch from around, because if we move across here, there's some orange on the edge there, some orange, there's orange all around the edge of the image. I don't know if it's from, I'm not sure, there's some orange cables in the background in the reflection there, but I'm not sure what would be causing the orange in the background. But what we can do, let's go to the hue and saturation levels here. Let's just grab the orange slider and take it all the way out. Right, now you can see there, by doing that, if I put that back to the default center, if you look at the top of the watch here, we've got this orange line running around. If I pull the orange slider down now, we've managed to lose that orange bit there. And we've got some around here. We'll just try the reds and see if that takes that out. Okay, the red takes some of that out, and let's try the magentas as well. Okay, Right, okay, so by using these saturation sliders here, we've managed to remove, you can see there, if I take the preview off, we've got orange line around there and a reddy kind of magenta edge around there. If I turn the preview back on, we've managed to lose those colours around the edge. And if you look in the reflection here as well, there's some orange cables that sit in this part. If I turn the preview back off, you can see we've got the orange cables there, and by turning that back on again, it's actually taken the colour back out of those. So let's fit this back onto the screen. Fit to view. Right, so there is the watch with the work we've done so far. We've adjusted the colour temperature, we've adjusted the highlights and shadows to bring in a bit more detail. We've done a bit of sharpening around to get a bit more sharpening on the dial of the watch, and we've used the hue and saturation within Camera Raw to take out the fringing that was around the edge of the watch. So now if we click Open Image, this will then open this file into Photoshop, and we can start to do a bit of cleanup work to try and get it more looking, looking like you would expect something from an advert to look. Okay, so there we go. We've got our image on the screen. Let's pull this up to full screen. And okay, so we've opened the image. The image is now opened back up in Photoshop. And what we want to do now is start looking at some of the bigger issues that need to be fixed before we can go any further. The most obvious ones we've got here are the fact that we have the fishing wire suspending the watch to hold it where it is, so we've got to try and get rid of that. And we've got two patches down the bottom here, which I think come from the holder here that the wristband is put around. So we'll start off and we'll get rid of the two bits of fishing wire. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to duplicate this layer. You could do it with a new blank layer, but I'm going to use it as a duplicate layer so we can show you what we've got underneath. So we're working on layer 1 across the top here. So we'll pick our spot healing brush, which is the little sticking plaster here below the eyedropper tool. You can also access that just by pressing J on your keyboard. Now we've got our healing brush here, and we could just individually go along and take out parts of the wire here. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click once here at the bottom of the band. I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard and go to the top end of the wire there and click again. Now as you can see now, what's happening is the spot healing brush is taking out the entire run of that fishing line. We could go through and do it all individually, but because it's a straight line, if we click at the bottom of it, hold down Shift, click at the top of it, the Photoshop will join those 2 points and take out whatever is in between those using the spot healing brush. So there we go, it's removed that. If we turn that layer on and off, there's the fishing wire before, and there's it gone. So we'll do exactly the same the other side now. We'll click once at the bottom near the band, hold down Shift, go to the top of the wire there and click it down again. Photoshop will do its magic. It's going to take a little while because it is a big image file, because it's come out of the D810, which shoots 36.2 megapixel files. I think it's the larger size. It's certainly on the larger end of what is available. There we go. Okay, so in a couple of moves there, we've managed to remove both sides of the fishing wire. There's obviously more fishing wire here around the strap, but that's slightly more detailed, and we'll try that with another tool in a minute. Next thing, we've got these two lumps at the bottom here, which are coming from this band holder. So I'm going to use the patch healing tool for this. So come over to where your spot healing brush is, click for the drop down menu, and the third option there is your patch tool. And as you can see, it looks like a little sewn patch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag just a rough selection around the area we want to remove. And you can see now it's got a selection, the marching ants. And if we click and drag that up, it's now going to sample from this area over the top of that. And there we go. In one move, we've got rid of that patch there. And we'll do exactly the same on this one here. So draw a rough selection around there. Wait for the selection, move it up into there. Control D, and there we go. We've got rid of both the fishing wire. Let's have a look where we were. That's where we were with the fishing wire and the two lumps there. There. Now we're at a stage where we have that cleaned up. I think next what we're going to do is try and remove this area here with the fishing wire is running across the band of the watch. So let's zoom in on that part of the image. So Z on your keyboard will give you your zoom tool, and we'll zoom in to that part of the image. Right, so we're nice and close in now, so we can start to see the details of the watch, and what we want to do is start to take out this line of fishing wire. We can try with the spot healing brush again, just for the little tab we've got over the edge. So I'll start, let's bring the brush size down. I'm just using the square bracket keys now to bring the brush size down, and we'll just see if we can take that out there. There, not too bad, it's taken most of that out. But obviously you can see there that if we go any further we're going to start to affect the actual band of the watch now. Right, so we want to get rid of the fishing wire in this area here. There's a couple of techniques. We could try the clone stamp tool. One thing I'm going to try first off is seeing if we can just move one of the link areas. So this link area here is very similar. We've got the same part there. It's at a slightly different angle. So I'm going to pick just the elliptical tool and just pick that area there. If I hit Control and J, we've now copied just that part onto a separate layer, and we can now move that. So if I pick the move tool, we can move that up so it kind of lines up with where we want it to be. Control and T will give us our transform tool. Start to move that round and hit enter. We're fairly close. If we had I'm going to add a layer mask in there to take out the bits we don't need. So layer mask, B on your keyboard to bring your brush tool up. If I just mask those bits around there. There. Before and after. And we've actually taken out the fishing wire where it goes across the link. So let's keep that layer. I'm going to put another blank layer in, and we'll start using the clone tool now to take out the rest of the wire we've got here. So we use from down here, I think, so let's go down there. We'll just come in nice and close, and you can see there that we're starting to remove the rest of the fishing wire. Use the white from down there. And we need to obviously do something with this here, so let's take the clone stamp tool from there. Come across, we'll do the same with the top there. And that's not looking too far off. We lost a slight bit of the link there, but if we come back across, okay, want something similar to that middle part there, don't we? Let's take that there. Okay, and we'll carry on down this part as well. Let's take from that area there. You can just take from there. That's not so good. So let's redo that one. I'm going to copy from up this area here. There we go. So let's just highlight those two levels together. Take those out. So that's the fishing rod beforehand. That's where we took out the top link. And now we've taken out the bottom part as well. Let's go back to 0. And there we have it. We've managed to take out that part of the fishing wire. I'd do exactly the same again on this area here to do that. Almost finished now with what I'm going to do. Like I said, I'm not going to take it to the point where you're going to comp the highlights up here and the shadow across the center to make it look like the advert. What I'm going to do with these two, I've got these two selected, is I'm going to group these two together. Shift Control G, Control G, just Control G, and now that's put the work we did with the clone tool together. Last thing I'm going to do here is you can see here with where they've had the fishing wire on the side, this side of the watch, it's actually pulled the band slightly away from the arc that it should be. So if I just use the liquify tool just to bring that back in, what I like to do, if we just where we're not using the liquify tool on the whole image, I'm just going to get my marquee tool and just select that area. And now when we go to filter, if we go filter, liquify, and it brings up the filter, it's only brought up that section of the image. We're not having to zoom in on the whole part of the image there. And as you can see there, I've got my liquify brush. So let's bring that a little bit bigger. I want that bigger than we need. I'm just going to gently push that inwards like that. About there. Click OK. Get rid of our marquee. If I turn that on and off, you can see that's where it was before, pushed out, and now we've brought that back round to a rounder area. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Everything else beyond that is starting to get into composite work of adding highlights and shadows. But that's basically what I would do to get the image ready to go on to the next stage to make it look more like the Apple Watch ad. So thanks to Jared Polin for uploading the photo and giving us a chance to play with it. I'm Dave Vickers. Until next time, have fun.